Hey there, welcome to Boundaries and Work Part 2. We're going to address two very specific problems. What to do if you get handed other people's tasks at work, and what to do if you're working too much. All right, getting saddled with another person's responsibilities from page 197. Hannah is an administrative assistant in a small company that plans training sessions for industry. She's responsible for booking the training sessions and managing the speakers' schedules. A coworker, Jack, is responsible for the training facilities. He takes the materials to the site, sets up the equipment, and orders the food. Together, Hannah and Jack make the events happen. After a few months of really liking her work, Hannah began to lose energy. Eventually, her friend and coworker, Linda, asked her what was wrong. Hannah couldn't put her finger on the problem at first. Then she realized it. The problem was Jack. Jack had been asking Hannah to pick this up for a while you're out, or please bring this box of materials to the workshop. Slowly, Jack was shifting his responsibilities onto Hannah. You have to stop doing Jack's work, Linda told Hannah. Just do your own work and don't worry about him. But what if things go wrong, said Hannah. Linda shrugged. Then they'll blame Jack. It's not your responsibility. Jack will be angry with me for not helping, Hannah said. Let him, Linda said. His anger can't hurt you as much as his poor work habits can. So Hannah began to set limits on Jack. She's a brave girl. She told him, I will not have time to bring the materials for you this week. And when Jack ran out of time to do things himself, Hannah said, I'm sorry that you have not done that before now, and I understand that you are in a bind. Maybe next time you will plan better, because that's not my job. She's a brave girl. Some trainers were angry that their equipment was not set up, and customers were angry that no food was provided for the week. But the boss tracked down the problem to the person who was responsible, Jack, and told him to shape up or find another job. In the end, Hannah began to like work again, and Jack began to get more responsible. All because Hannah set boundaries and stuck to them. If you are being saddled with another person's responsibilities and feel resentful, you need to take responsibility for your feelings and realize that your unhappiness is not your coworker's fault, but your own. In this, as in any other boundary conflict, you must first take responsibility for yourself. Then you must act responsibly to your coworker. Go to your coworker and explain your situation. When he asks you to do something that is not your responsibility, say no and refuse to do whatever it is he wants you to do. If he gets angry at you for saying no, be firm about your boundaries and empathize with his anger. Don't get angry back. To fight anger with anger is to get hooked into his game. Keep your emotional distance and say, I'm sorry if this upsets you, but that job is not my responsibility. I hope you get it worked out. If he continues to argue, tell him that you are finished discussing it. He can come and find you when he is ready to talk about something else. Do not fall into the trap of justifying why you can't do his work for him. You will be slipping into his thinking that you should do his work if you are able to, and he will try to find a way that you can. You owe no one an explanation about why you will not do something that is not your responsibility. Is this not the hardest thing ever? Does anybody else struggle with this? I think this is pretty difficult stuff. I don't think this is easy stuff, or at least it isn't for me. It has taken a lot of very, very hard work to have the courage to say no. Does anybody else feel that way? Anyway, let's continue, shall we? Many over-responsible people who work next to under-responsible people bear the consequences for their coworkers. Always covering for them or bailing them out, over-responsible people are not enjoying their work or their relationships with these people. Their lack of boundaries is hurting them, as well as keeping the other people from growing. If you are an over-responsible person, you need to learn to set boundaries. Sometimes, however, a coworker will genuinely need extra help. It is perfectly legitimate to bail out a responsible coworker or to make special concessions to a colleague who uses those concessions responsibly to get well. This is love, and good organizations operate lovingly. When we worked as psychologists at the same hospital, we often covered hospital duty for each other or took each other's on-call time. But if one of us started to take advantage of the other, we would have needed to stop that. Covering for the other at that point would have been enabling a bad pattern of not being helpful. Favors and sacrifices are part of the Christian life. Enabling is not. Learn to tell the difference by seeing if your giving is helping the other person to become better or worse. Boy, that really is the magic right there. Learn to tell the difference by seeing if your giving is helping the other person to become better or worse. The Bible requires responsible action out of the one who is given to. If you do not see it after a season, set limits. That's Luke 13:9. Ooh, this is so hard and so good. Problem number 2, working too much overtime. And this will be short today, or for this session. But I hope you enjoy it and I hope you find it useful. And if you do, please comment and let me know. That would be so great. If you're joining us just right now for the first time, we're talking about boundaries in the workplace. And this is where it really gets sticky because there's so much fear involved. Sorry, I'm crossing my legs and I hit the desk. There's so much fear in losing connection or losing an opportunity or just workplace politics can be really scary. And when those issues come up, it's so important for us to remember who God is and who he is in that moment. And honestly, I have not seen this done well. Maybe people do this really, really well, but I haven't seen it done well. And I've had to fight to become okay with disappointing other people and recognizing that the love that I have from the Lord and from other supportive relationships are enough to enable me to say no when I need to. And that is just so hard. But anyway, going forward, problem number 2 is working too much overtime or working too much, having too much work assigned to you. Okay, when I first started my counseling practice, I hired a woman for 20 hours a week to run my office. On her second day in the office, I gave her a pile of things to do. About 10 minutes later, she knocked at my door with a stack of papers in hand. "What can I do for you, Lori?" I asked. "You have a problem," she told me. "I do? What is it?" I asked, not having the vaguest idea what she was talking about. "You hired me for 20 hours a week, and you have just given me about 40 hours of work. Which 20 do you want done?" She was right. I did have a problem. I had not managed my workload very well. I was either going to have to spend more on help, cut back on projects, or hire someone else. But she was right. It was my problem, not hers. I had to take responsibility for it and fix it. Lori was telling me what that ever-present sign says. Poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. So this is really good, even as a mom at home, working from home. Hey, Janard, thanks for joining me. How's it going? Happy birthday. Sorry, I just saw this comment. Janard and I used to work at Fox together. That's so cool. Okay. Yeah, send me a link to whatever you're doing now, okay? Thanks. Okay. So, but isn't this hard? Even at home, I notice I'm being convicted right now because if I add a lot of work to my schedule, I don't necessarily think how that's going to affect the housework load or, still managing my boys. They're human beings. I haven't perfectly parented them. They don't run the house without me. They probably could, but I haven't asked them to do that. So maybe that's a boundary issue. Maybe I need to ask them to assume more responsibility. I'll think about that. I probably do, but then that means taking the time to communicate that to them in a loving way and not just getting frustrated when they don't do it. So same thing in work. We have to communicate what our needs and expectations are and also know our limits, right? Okay, so many bosses aren't quite as lucky. Their employees take responsibility for their lack of planning and never set limits on them. They are never forced to look at their lack of boundaries until it's too late, until they have lost a good employee to exhaustion or burnout. Such bosses need clear limits, but many employees are afraid to set them, as Lori did, because they desperately need the job or they fear disapproval. If you are in a situation in which you are doing lots of extra work because you need the job and because you are afraid of being let go, you have a problem. If you are working more overtime than you want to, you are in bondage to your job. You are a slave, not an employee under contract. Clear and responsible contracts tell all parties involved what is expected of them, and they can be enforced. Jobs should have clear descriptions of duties and qualifications. As hard as it sounds, you need to take responsibility for yourself and take steps to change your situation. Here are some suggestions you may wish to take. Number 1, set boundaries on your work. Decide how much overtime you are willing to do. Some overtime during seasonal crunches may be expected of you. Number 2, review your job description if one exists. Number 3, make a list of the tasks you need to complete in the next month. Make a copy of the list and assign your own priority to each item. Indicate on this list any tasks that are not part of your job description. And number 4, make an appointment with your boss to discuss your job overload. Together, review the list of tasks you need to complete in the month. Ask your boss to prioritize the tasks. If your boss wants all the tasks done and you cannot complete the tasks in the time you are willing to give, your boss may need to hire temporary help to help complete the tasks. You may also wish to review your job description with your boss at this time if you think you are doing things that fall outside your domain. Okay, so the 4 steps again. Set boundaries on your work. Decide how much overtime you are willing to do. Number 2, review your job description if one exists. Number 3, make a list of tasks you need to complete in the next month. And number 4, make an appointment with your boss to discuss your job overload. If you do this, let me know. I want to know how it goes. And I want to support you through the experience too, because this is hard. Okay. If your boss still has unreasonable expectations of you, here's the follow-up. You may wish to take along a coworker or 2 with you to a second meeting. This is according to the biblical model in Matthew 18. Or you may wish to discuss your problem with the appropriate person in your personnel department. If even then he remains unreasonable about what he thinks you could accomplish, you may need to begin looking for other job opportunities within your organization or outside. You may need to go to night school or take an online training course to open up other opportunities. You may need to chase down hundreds of employment ads, invest more time in professional networking sites, and polish up your resume. Oh, goodness. Consult the latest edition of What Color is Your Parachute by Richard Bowles for guidance on job searches. Or reach out to me because I know somebody who is a career coach and she could help you with that. She could help you with the job search part. Okay, you may wish to start your own business or rework your budget so you can build an emergency fund to survive between quitting your present job and starting a new one. Whatever you do, remember that your job overload is your responsibility and your problem. If your job is driving you crazy, you need to do something about it. Own the problem. Put on your big girl pants. Stop being a victim of an abusive situation and start setting some limits. Well, that is all for today, folks. That is a whole lot of big girl pants right there. Whole lot. If you're just joining me now, we've been talking about boundaries in work and 2 specific scenarios. What to do if you get handed other people's tasks at work, and what to do if you're working too much, and how to play out that scenario so that you can have the work life you desire. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.